Let me tell you something that most women will never figure out, and it's costing them everything in their love lives. There is one specific behavior, one energy, one way of carrying yourself that makes a man lose sleep thinking about you. That makes him double text you when you haven't even asked for his attention. That makes him suddenly realize what he had the moment you stop chasing what you want. And that thing is detachment. Not playing games, not manipulation, not pretending you don't care. Actual, real, powerful detachment. And by the time this video ends, you are going to understand exactly why it works the way it does, and more importantly, how to embody it so naturally that men feel it before you even open your mouth. Here is where we have to start because most women are taught the completely wrong thing about attraction. From the time we are young, we are told that if you love someone, show them. Be consistent, be available, be warm, be giving. And those are beautiful qualities in a human being. But here is the brutal truth that nobody tells you. When you lead with all of that in the early stages of attraction, or even in a relationship where a man has become comfortable, you are not creating love. You are creating comfort, and comfort is the enemy of desire. Think about that for a second. Comfort is the enemy of desire. A man does not pursue what feels guaranteed. He pursues what feels rare. He fights for what he feels like he could lose. And the moment you make yourself completely emotionally available, completely predictable, completely there, you have handed him the answer to a puzzle he was still trying to solve. And once a man has the answer, he stops thinking about the question. This is not his fault. This is not something you can blame on him or on men in general. This is psychology. This is human nature. The brain is literally wired to stop releasing dopamine, that rush of excitement, that craving, that electric feeling, the moment certainty arrives. Scientists call it the reward prediction error. Your brain only lights up for things it does not already know the outcome of. When a man knows you are going to be there, knows you are going to respond, knows you are emotionally invested and emotionally available, the chase is over in his mind, even if he never says that out loud, even if he doesn't consciously realize it. His nervous system has already categorized you as safe and safe and stable do not produce desire. They produce comfort, they produce routine, they produce the kind of relationship where he stops planning dates, stops putting in effort, stops feeling that urgency to earn your attention, because the attention is already there, unconditional and constant. Now, here is where detachment changes everything. When a woman is genuinely detached, and again, I am not talking about being cold. I am not talking about being mean. I'm not talking about ignoring people or running emotional distance as a manipulation tactic. I am talking about a woman who has her own life, her own purpose, her own emotional world that does not revolve around any one man. When a woman like that enters a room, something shifts. When she does not hang on every word he says. When she does not rearrange her schedule to be available whenever he texts. When she has her own thoughts, her own opinions, her own vision for her life that she is actively living, men feel that. They feel it like a change in temperature, and it pulls them in a direction they can't always explain. There is a very specific reason for this, and you need to understand it deeply. Men are attracted to women who seem to have something going on that does not include him, not because men want to be excluded, but because a woman who has a full, interesting, purposeful life signals something very powerful. She signals high value. She signals self-sufficiency. She signals that her happiness is not dependent on his validation, his attention, or his time. And that is terrifying to a low-quality man and incredibly magnetic to a high-quality one. A high-quality man is the kind of man who actually wants something real, who has his own life together, who is emotionally mature. That man is not attracted to a woman who makes him her whole world. That man is attracted to a woman who would be completely fine without him, because that man knows that a woman like that is not with him out of desperation or loneliness or fear. She is with him because she genuinely wants to be, and that means everything to him. Let's talk about what detachment actually looks like in practice, because theory without application is useless. Detachment looks like being genuinely excited about your own goals, not performing excitement to seem busy, actually having things in your life that you care deeply about. Your work, your creative projects, your health, your friendships, your spiritual growth, whatever it is, it needs to be real because men can feel the difference between a woman who is pretending to be busy to seem mysterious and a woman who is actually living. One feels like a game, the other feels like a challenge worth rising to. Detachment looks like not reading his text the second they come in and then immediately composing the perfect response. Not because you are playing a game, but because you were actually in the middle of something when that message arrived and your life does not pause for anyone. Detachment looks like being able to have a conversation with him, have a great time, feel the chemistry, and then go home and genuinely sleep. Not lie awake analyzing every word he said and what it means and whether he likes you and why he didn't say this or that. That peace, that groundedness is something he will notice because most people he interacts with are not that calm about things. Most people are anxious, needy, performing. Your stillness stands out. And this is something I want you to really sit with because I think it is the part that most women miss. Detachment is not something you perform. It is something you earn by doing the work on yourself. You cannot fake your way into this energy. If you are internally obsessed with a man, tracking his every move, checking his last scene on WhatsApp every 20 minutes, refreshing his social media profile, you can put your phone down and act unbothered all you want, but that energy will leak out. It comes through in the way you speak, in the micro expressions on your face when he mentions another woman, in the slight tension in your voice when he cancels plans, in the way you laugh just a little too eagerly at things he says. Men, especially emotionally intelligent men, pick up on this. And once they sense that underneath your cool exterior is someone who is desperately attached to the outcome of this connection, the dynamic shifts, the power shifts, and not in your favor. So the real work is not about learning tricks. The real work is about building a life you are so in love with that no man can become your entire world by default. And I know that sounds simple, but actually doing it is one of the hardest things a woman can commit to because it requires redirecting all that emotional energy you have been putting into thinking about him, analyzing him, worrying about him, and putting it back into yourself. It requires becoming so interested in your own becoming that a man becomes an addition to your life, not the center of it. And when you actually do that, when that shift genuinely happens inside you, everything in your love life changes. The way you walk into a room changes. The way you speak changes. The way you respond to situations changes. You stop chasing, you start attracting, and the difference between those two things is enormous. Let me give you a real life example of how this plays out. Imagine two women. Both of them are dating the same type of man, a man who is emotionally capable but used to women making things very easy for him. The first woman, the moment he pulls back a little, the moment he doesn't text for 2 days, she panics internally. She starts overthinking. She sends a casual text to check in. She brings it up the next time they meet, trying to do it lightly, but the anxiety is underneath every word. He senses it. He feels the pressure, and even if she is beautiful and smart and wonderful, that pressure creates a subconscious desire in him to pull back more, because every time he comes close, he can feel the weight of her attachment, and it overwhelms him. Now the second woman, when he pulls back, she barely notices. Not because she doesn't care about him, but because her week was full. She had a dinner with her friends. She made progress on something she has been building. She went for a run. She read. She lived. When he comes back, she is happy to see him, warm, present, but there is no trace of the anxiety, no unspoken accusation, no heaviness. And to him, that is intoxicating. Because being around her feels like relief. Being around her feels like freedom. And a man will always, always move toward the woman who makes him feel free rather than the woman who, even unintentionally, makes him feel like he owes her something. Now I have to address the fear that almost every woman has when they first hear this concept because it is real and it is valid. The fear is this: if I detach, won't he think I don't care? Won't he move on? Won't he find someone who shows more interest? And here is my honest answer. A man who is scared away by your independence and your fullness was never the right man for you. A man who needs you to be emotionally dependent on him so he can feel wanted is not a secure man. He is a man who gets his value from your neediness, and that is a dynamic that will exhaust you for years. The right man, the man you actually want, is not scared by your detachment. He is activated by it. He is challenged by it. He works for it. Because your independence tells him that to be with you is an achievement, not a given. There is another layer to this that goes even deeper, and I think this is the part that will completely reframe how you think about relationships. When you are detached, you are also more honest. You say what you actually think instead of what you think he wants to hear. You disagree when you genuinely disagree. You have boundaries that you actually hold rather than boundaries you announce and then abandon the moment he pushes back. And men find an honest woman magnetic in a way that is almost primal because most people in most interactions are performing, saying the right thing, agreeing to keep the peace, softening their truth to manage someone else's feelings. A woman who is comfortable enough in herself to just be real, to just be honest without the performance, that is rare. And rare things are valuable. Rare things are desired. Detachment also changes the way you respond to disrespect, and this is huge. When you are emotionally attached to the outcome of a relationship, when your peace and your mood and your sense of self-worth are wrapped up in where things stand with him, you tolerate things you should not tolerate. Not because you are weak, but because the fear of losing him feels bigger than the cost of accepting poor treatment. You minimize red flags. You explain away patterns. You convince yourself that he is just going through something, that things will get better, that if you just love him right, the behavior will change. And you do this because you are attached to the idea of him, to the future you have imagined, to the connection you do not want to lose. Detachment removes that fear. When you are genuinely detached from the outcome, you see things clearly. You see him clearly. And when something feels wrong, you address it calmly and without desperation, because your life will be full and meaningful whether he gets himself together or not. And that clarity, that groundedness, that willingness to walk away from what does not serve you is one of the most powerful things a man will ever experience in a woman. Because here's what happens in the mind of a man when he realizes a woman will actually walk away. Something wakes up in him, something that was asleep when he knew you weren't going anywhere. Suddenly, you are not just a presence in his life, you are a person with standards, with self-respect, with a life that is proceeding beautifully with or without him. And that is often the moment, if he has any real depth, any real capacity for love, that a man truly falls. Not when you give him everything. When he understands there is a version of your life that does not include him and it is a good life. That is when he decides he wants to be in it. I want to talk to the women who feel like it is too late. The women who are already deeply attached, already in a dynamic where they have given a lot and received little in return, already anxious and overthinking and exhausted. Because detachment is not only for the beginning of relationships, it is something you can come back to at any stage. And sometimes returning to it mid-relationship is the thing that completely transforms what you have. Because when a man sees you stop chasing, stop over-explaining, stop being available in the way you used to be, not dramatically, not as a punishment, but because you are genuinely redirecting that energy back to yourself, he feels it. The dynamic shifts. And often the version of you that is invested in her own life and no longer organized around his moods and his schedule is the version of you he realizes he does not want to lose. This is not a strategy. I want to say that again because it is the whole point. Detachment is not a strategy. You cannot weaponize it and expect the same results. The moment you are doing it to make him chase you, you are still emotionally attached to his response. You have just found a more indirect way of chasing him back. Real detachment comes from real investment in yourself. It comes from having things in your life that matter to you. It comes from healing whatever it is inside you that taught you that love means losing yourself. Because so many of us were taught by watching our mothers, by the stories we consumed, by our earliest experiences of love, that love requires sacrifice, that love requires making yourself smaller, that love requires being there in a way that costs you yourself. And those teachings are wrong. The healthiest love, the most sustainable love, the most passionate love is always between two people who are each complete on their own. Two people who choose each other not because they need each other, but because they genuinely want each other. And that kind of love is only possible when both people are whole, which means your work is to become whole. Your work is to become someone whose self-worth does not fluctuate based on his texts, his moods, his interest level, his opinion of you. Your work is to build a relationship with yourself that is so stable, so loving, so honest, that the attention of a man becomes a bonus rather than a lifeline. And when you do that work, really do it, not just understand it intellectually, but actually live it, you will notice something almost immediately. The energy with which you move through the world changes. The men who approach you change. The men who stay change. The conversations you have change. Because you are no longer operating from a place of looking for something. You are operating from a place of having something. And that shift is magnetic in a way that no perfume, no outfit, no perfectly crafted text message ever could be. So here is where I want to leave you. If you have been wondering why the effort isn't working, why being consistent and available and loving and present is not translating into the love and the respect and the pursuit you deserve, the answer is not that you need to give more. The answer is that you need to give more to yourself. Pull your energy back in, fill your own life, fall in love with your own becoming. Let your existence be so rich, so purposeful, so genuinely full that a man entering it feels lucky to be there, not needed, chosen. And that distinction, the difference between being needed and being chosen, is the difference between a relationship that slowly drains you and a relationship that makes both people come alive. Be the woman who is chosen. Be the woman who chooses. Be the woman who has already decided that her life is beautiful, and let the right man fight to be part of that beauty. And I want you to understand something about the women who have mastered this energy. They did not wake up one day and suddenly stop caring. They went through the exact same cycles you might be going through right now. They overtexted. They overexplained. They cried over men who were not losing a single minute of sleep. They rearranged their schedules, dimmed their opinions, laughed at things that were not funny, and pretended to be okay with situations that were slowly breaking them. They did all of it. And then one day, sometimes through pain, sometimes through exhaustion, sometimes through watching the same pattern repeat itself one too many times, something inside them decided enough. Not enough of him. Enough of abandoning themselves for someone who was not even fully showing up. And that decision, that quiet internal revolution, is what changed everything. So if you are in the middle of a painful cycle right now, I need you to hear this. The pain is not punishment. The pain is the turning point. The discomfort you are feeling right now is your soul asking you to come back home to yourself. And the moment you answer that call, everything begins to shift. There is something else nobody talks about when it comes to detachment, and that is how it protects you from choosing the wrong man in the first place. When you are emotionally attached before a man has even earned that attachment, when you fall for potential, for chemistry, for the idea of someone before you truly know who they are, you are making yourself vulnerable to men who are not ready, not capable, or simply not right for you. Because attachment clouds judgment. When you like someone deeply, you start filling in the gaps with what you hope is true rather than what you are actually seeing. You give the benefit of the doubt when doubt is the appropriate response. You stay patient when patience has become an excuse not to face the truth. But a woman who is detached in the early stages of connection is a woman who is watching clearly. She is enjoying the experience without losing herself in it. She is letting him reveal who he actually is rather than deciding who she wants him to be. And because of that, she makes better choices. She ends things earlier when they need to be ended. She does not waste years on someone who showed her in the first month who he was. Detachment is not just attractive, it is protective. It is one of the most intelligent things you can bring to love. I also want to speak directly to the women who have been told that their desire for love, their longing for connection, their hope for a relationship is somehow a weakness. Because that is one of the most damaging lies that exists in the conversation around this topic. Wanting love is not weakness. Wanting to share your life with someone is not desperation. That desire is one of the most human things about you, and it deserves to be honored, not suppressed, not shamed, not hidden behind a performance of not caring. The difference is not between wanting love and not wanting love. The difference is between a woman who needs a specific man's love to feel okay and a woman who desires love while remaining completely whole and okay regardless of whether it arrives through this particular person at this particular time. You are allowed to want him. You are allowed to feel the pull, to enjoy the connection, to hope for something real. Detachment does not ask you to feel nothing. It asks you to feel everything without letting those feelings govern your decisions, compromise your standards, or cost you your peace. Now, let's talk about what happens in your body and in your energy when you start practicing real detachment, because the internal shift is just as important as the external one. When you stop obsessing over a man, when you redirect that mental and emotional energy back into your own life, you will notice something strange at first. It feels uncomfortable, almost like withdrawal. Your brain has been so used to the loop of thinking about him, analyzing him, wondering about him, that silence feels unnatural. That discomfort is real and it is temporary. Push through it. Because on the other side of that discomfort is something extraordinary. Clarity. Your creativity comes back. Your appetite for your own life returns. You start sleeping better. You start laughing more easily. You start noticing opportunities and people and experiences that you were completely blind to when all your attention was tunneled toward one person. Your whole world expands. And from that expanded world, from that fuller version of your life, you make different choices. You attract different energy. You carry yourself differently. People around you notice it even when they cannot name what changed. And the right man, when he appears or when he already exists in your life and sees this shift in you, will feel it like gravity. Because there is nothing more compelling than a woman who has clearly decided to belong to herself first. So let me ask you something before you close this video and go back to your day. Where have you been giving your energy that it has not been returned? What version of yourself have you been shrinking to keep someone comfortable? What dreams, what projects, what relationships with your own self have you been neglecting because your attention has been living inside someone else's life? I want you to sit with those questions honestly, not to feel guilt, not to feel shame, but to feel clarity. Because the most powerful moment in a woman's life is the moment she decides that she is worth the same devotion she has been pouring outward, the moment she brings that love back to herself. That is where detachment is born. Not from pain, not from bitterness, not from giving up on love, but from finally, fully, unapologetically choosing yourself. And when you make that choice, you will not need to wonder whether you are attractive enough, interesting enough, or enough at all. You will know, and every man worth keeping will know it too.